Hey, Clayton, what's up with the weird test for an unfaithful wife in Numbers chapter 5? The whole thing seems super strange. You're right, it does seem super strange. If you haven't read Numbers 5 in a little bit, let me describe it for you. There is a law that applies to a situation where a husband suspects his wife of adultery but doesn't have proof. Basically, the husband's jealous, thinking, she's been cheating on me. And so he's accusing her, but he doesn't have a witness. He doesn't have physical evidence. He hasn't caught her in the act. He just feels like it's true. And so he gets to take the woman to the priest and say to the priest, I think my wife's cheating on me. And the priest performs this ritual. He takes some holy water and he takes some of the dirt that is on the floor of the sanctuary, the tabernacle, puts it in the holy water, and then hands it to the woman. She swears an oath, basically saying, I didn't do it. I'm not guilty. But if I am guilty, God can judge me. And then he writes that curse on a scroll and washes the ink into the water. And then the woman drinks this water. And after she drinks the water, if she is guilty, it is called a bitter water that brings a curse, and her womb wastes away, her abdomen swells, and she's no longer able to have children. But if she's innocent, she's going to be totally fine. She'll survive it. It'll be totally okay. So this is the ritual. This is the ceremony, and it's the way that a husband would test if his wife has been faithful when he doesn't have evidence to the contrary. So this is a weird situation, right? Like this just seems very odd to us in a modern sense of things, and seems unfair in a number of ways. So I actually asked Dr. Carmen Imes about this on a previous episode. We had a whole episode about women in the Pentateuch. There are a lot of passages that, from our perspective, seem like it's very unfair to women in the Torah and the Pentateuch. So I had Dr. Imes on to ask her about a lot of these different passages. I asked her about Numbers chapter 5. She had a great answer about that. We're going to post a link to the video in the description of the YouTube channel here, and we're going to, it's about 30 minutes in if you want to go check out her answer. But I'm going to try and summarize some of the things that are going on here, really address 4 things in this passage that are weird. First is this. Is this oppressive, right? Like it seems just awful that a husband can do this to his wife, that publicly accuse her, humiliate her in front of people, and, just sort of, foist this on her when he just has a feeling. He doesn't have evidence. Second, what's the deal with drinking the nasty water, right? Like you wash all this stuff into it and you got to drink it. And it's like, if she survives, it's okay. Like that seems pretty gross. The third is what happens to the woman if she's guilty, right? Because in the NIV, it makes it sound like if she got pregnant, that she would miscarry, that she would lose the baby. And that seems like an abortion. And so that becomes controversial. And then the fourth question is, why isn't there an equivalent test for a man? If a wife suspects her husband of cheating on her, why can't she accuse the man in the same way? Isn't there some version of this for him? It seems unfair that she wouldn't have that sort of thing for her own protection. So let's walk through these things, okay? Is this oppressive, right? It sure seems like it, that this man can just do this humiliating thing to this woman and accuse her of something and potentially curse her. It just seems really, overbearing. I actually think the reverse is going on. Surprisingly, this is actually protecting the woman from her husband rather than putting the woman in the hands of her husband in a vulnerable way. Okay, you've got to remember that adultery is a capital crime, which means it's a matter of life and death. Someone can be executed for cheating on their spouse. If they're caught in the act, that is it doesn't always happen, but the maximum penalty for this is actually death. And this is true in Israel. This is true in other ancient cultures. The thing you have to remember, though, is that the enforcement of laws fell on the male head of household, which means most of the time when there was a law that was broken, when there was a legal matter to be settled, the first line was the man who was in charge of the house, which if you were a woman might be your wife or your father. If you were a young man, it might be your dad. And if not him, then the town elders, which were often your relatives, your uncles and people like that. And so in a situation where a man is accusing a woman of a crime that has such a high penalty, like death, the question is, what would protect her from him making false accusations and getting away with it? Right? So if he's the one who most of the time is supposed to be responsible for executing the judgment of something, and he's just convinced this is what's going on, and he just says, we're going to stone her, what recourse does she have? Who does she appeal to above him? And if he gets his brothers and the other men in the town, they're more likely to listen to him than to her. And how does she have a defense against this? God preempts this by saying, if you have a situation where there is no evidence and it's just a suspicion, guess whose hands it's in? It's in my hands, not his hands. It takes it out of the hands of the husband and puts it in the hands of God, which, especially if you're innocent, is the right place to be, right? Like, you can't have the injustice of a husband who is just, paranoid about something, inflicting that on his wife. Instead, what you say, God, who sees and judges rightly, is going to be the one who makes the decision about this because he's going to do what's right. It's in his hands, not this man's hands. Second question was about the concoction, right? The water, the ink, the dirt, and having to drink that. And the question is like, okay, why does she have to do this, right? It's sort of like you drink this gross, nasty stuff, and if you survive, like, you're okay. It's kind of weird. Actually, this was not poisonous. You got to think about that, right? Like, it's dirt and it's ink, which may taste, not great, but it's not going to be like incredibly gross. And it's certainly not going to be toxic, okay? It's not chemically poisonous. It's also not magical, right? Like, so this is not what's going on. It's not like, well, here's this sort of magic potion, and if you drink it, it's going to test you. No, it's a symbolic way of applying the curse, right? So if the woman says, here's what I'm going to do. I swear I didn't do this. And if I'm lying, then I am in God's hands for him to judge me. And the symbol is basically, if you take something holy, right? Something of God, the ground of the tabernacle, the soil of the holy place is here. And my commitment, the words of the curse that I spoke over myself, that if I'm guilty, then I should be punished. And it's almost like saying I have a symbolic way of taking that into myself. I'm coming into the presence of God, and I'm vowing before him that I am in his hands. The drinking of that is a symbolic way of applying it to the person. It's not magical. It's not poisonous. It's a way of symbolically entering into this kind of trial before God. Third question, the weird thing about this is whether or not this is a miscarriage or an abortion, or what's going on there. Because especially if you read the NIV translation, which is the one we use around here, it says what will happen to the woman is her abdomen will swell and her womb will miscarry. You read that and you say, well, that sounds like, hey, she got pregnant, she cheated and got pregnant, and now we're kind of, taking care of the problem and getting rid of the baby there. That sounds like an abortion, right? The tricky part is in the translation here, because the Hebrew, like literally speaking, has this idiom. It says, her abdomen will swell and her thigh will fall away. Now, it's pretty clear that her thigh falling away is kind of a euphemistic way of talking about her uterus, her womb. And so it's talking about something about kind of her reproduction, right? The punishment here is associated with the crime. Like, if she was sleeping with someone, this is going to be related to matters pertaining to that. And so there's obviously some connection there, but the NIV has chosen to translate that idiom as referring to losing a potential baby, right? Like losing a child. And it describes it like a miscarriage, so it comes across as an abortion. But it doesn't necessarily mean that. It's really probably more talking about becoming infertile, not necessarily having a miscarriage. It's essentially saying we're going to put her ability to bear life in God's hands, and he is either going to judge her by saying you still can have children, or by saying you can't have children. Now, that's still a pretty devastating thing, but it is not describing an abortion to sort of clean up the untidy parts of this situation. Fourth question, and this is one I find the hardest, it's why isn't there some equivalent test for the man? Right? I think in modern times, we all know both men and women who have had spouses cheat on them. And it seems like that probably was the case in ancient times as well. That I'm pretty sure there are plenty of men who cheated on their wives. So why couldn't a wife do the same thing? We don't actually know the answer to that question. And we also don't know, beyond the things that are in the Torah, other forms of how the community handled problems that go beyond kind of the things that are specifically outlined. They could have had a process where they said, hey, this is what we do when a woman is suspicious, but we don't have it in the Bible, so we don't know what happens, and it feels a little lopsided because of that. Now, presumably, if a woman was cheating with another man, that man's family would be the one who could bring an accusation, right? Excuse me, I got this wrong. If a man is cheating on his wife with a woman, that woman's family would bring the accusation against that man, right? The head of household from that family would be able to say, he has been sleeping with my daughter, or he has been sleeping with my wife, and the legal process would begin that way. It's not that men could just get away with it because no one could accuse them. It just, the normal mechanism wasn't their wife accusing them, but the husband or father of the person he cheated with doing the accusation. So there were still ways that this happened, and there's certainly laws in the Old Testament that say he's not allowed to do that, and here are the consequences. We just don't know the legal mechanism for the accusations to happen. But the truth is, these are challenging sorts of scenarios for us. And I bet you when you read that, you're like, I don't know how to think through all of this. This is where having good resources like a study Bible will often help. This is where having scholars like Dr. Imes to be able to reach out to is really helpful. But the truth is, a lot of these laws, you really have to know something about their cultural context. You really have to think through how it would work in their setting. But here's the good news about this particular law. It makes it so that suspicious husbands do not get the final word. And I'll tell you this, in a modern context, I have known a lot of suspicious husbands, and they have made the lives of their wives a nightmare. And I think it's really good to know that God doesn't want all the power in the hands of sinful men, but God is looking out for the vulnerable and making sure there are ways that he can defend them, and people will have to respond to it.
Thanks for listening. If you've got your own questions, email questions@BibleSavvy.com. Like and subscribe to catch our regular episodes every Monday on the Bible Savvy Podcast.